Friday, June 5th, and we're going to do a tarot card reading using the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. The first card that we pulled this evening is the Star in Forward Facing. And this card is about, this Star card this evening tells us about finding mental clarity on issues. So perhaps you were trying to figure out some knowledge about a particular subject. It seems like actually there's I paused because there's a couple of different things going on. It's almost like you have like a 6-burner oven and you have like all your pilot lights on and you're cooking all these different things using all these different ingredients. You know, you're using some ingredients for this back burner and using different ingredients for this other back burner on the right. And you have all these different recipes and concoctions going on. So your mind is articulating what goes where, what temperature, what speed, what has to come to a boil, what has to simmer. And I'm just using that as an analogy. So you have all these different things happening and you're trying to figure out like what's going to be done first, the timing of it all. So in life, I think we have all these different opportunities and options going on at all times. Our brain is constantly thinking about, you know, new things that we can be doing, finishing tasks on some old things. And right now, the only thing that I see on this card is that we're like searching for mental clarity. Also, with the Star card, it's like you're filling yourself up emotionally to be able to kind of have some thing on reserve, meaning that you have enough for yourself so that you can deal with other issues at hand. So maybe right now you are trying to take some things on that maybe do not initially have something to do with you, but because you kind of are dabbling in everything at once, you're trying to make sure you have enough to be able to spread your energy elsewhere. But through all of that, you're seeking mental clarity and you're seeking emotional balance. Oh, but that just made so much sense because of the second card that we pulled is the Ten of Swords in Forward Facing. So that just made so much sense to me because the Swords is a masculine card. It's an air card. So when we think about air, think about an air sign. Think about like Libra, Gemini, Aquarius. There are people who are in their head. There are people who are in their mind. So they're constantly like rethinking things or finding new developments on old tasks and old matters. 10 in numerology, well really it's like 9 in numerology, but it's like 10 in tarot is very similar to 9 in numerology, is like completing a cycle or completing a task. So maybe you feel like you had to deal with something very specific at hand, something really important to be able to move on to the next task or the next big thing, but there's this feeling of defeat. And it could be even though that you've completed it, because I do feel like you're working through it, through these trials and tribulations, that even though you're working through it, it still really took a toll on you mentally, more so than physically. But keep in mind, whenever we're affected by something mentally, it does take a toll on us in our emotional body and in our spiritual body. So this card makes me feel like it's the culmination of all of these thoughts and all of these perceptions about what is going on in your life. Now here's something really interesting, and I can really kind of relate to this. Spirit is showing me that when you have these moments of mental clarity, because the first card is the Star card, so that's making me feel like there's going to be a lot of mental clarity for you. When you have these moments of mental clarity, usually it comes through like almost like an epiphany, like you start to have this revelation about something that you've been kind of thinking about time and time again. And as you start to process it, it could be one big subject or one big focus. You'll see that it has like this trickle down effect where it starts to kind of like one topic will start to cause this ripple effect where you're now figuring out like a tree. Like this is almost like the star at the top of the Christmas tree, and you put that star on, but all of these lower branches mean something and all of those lower branches mean something. So whenever you think that you're having like some mental clarity on one major topic, you might start to realize that you're getting then some insight and some mental clarity on some lower vibration topics, like things that weren't major for you or as big as this first thing. So in essence, what I'm saying is maybe there was something really big. Maybe it was something about some self-discovery, some shadow work, kind of some self-love, thinking about things that you need to resolve regarding yourself. And then it starts to have this trickle-down effect that maybe some of the behaviors of the people in your life are affecting you in this way because of lack of this in your life, if that makes sense. So let's say that you thought you had a lot of self-love. I'm just going to use this as an example because I think a lot of people are continuously working on self-love. Let's say you thought that you had a lot of self-love, and then you go through some kind of like shadow work or major work in your life, and then you start to work on that self-love, and you start to work on that self-compassion. You start to see below that the underlying factor of why you're now working on that self-love is because maybe something went wrong in your life. Maybe a relationship ended or a friendship ended and you weren't really quite sure why this happened. Sometimes when you lose yourself and you're not in the space of self-love and self-compassion, other relationships like friendships and love and romance start to take a toll. So maybe there's like an ending or a goodbye, and then as you start to work through that self-love, you start to reevaluate those relationships. Like you start to look at it and you're like, okay, maybe that relationship didn't work out because I wasn't really bringing this core of myself, this like best version of myself to the relationship. So as you start to heal and you start to work through some of that shadow work, that self-love and that self-expression, you start to kind of reevaluate things that went wrong in the relationship. I think for most of us with our ego, it's easy to point fingers like, oh, he or she wasn't doing this in our relationship, or he or she were not fulfilling that in my relationship. But when you start to work on self, you realize that it's not necessary to point fingers towards other people. You start to take responsibility for your role in those relationships or lack thereof. So I feel like that's what this card, it's kind of like the culmination, like it's kind of like the number 9 in numerology where you're completing a cycle. So in the tarot, we go up to the number 10 before we move into the page. And it's like you're completing the cycle of being over analytical. Sasha, come here. If I don't reprimand her as for recording, she's just going to do this the whole time. Say hi. This is Sasha. Say hello. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. This is not my dog. This is why she's not listening to me. Sit down. And there went that whole thing. I'm glad I'm better at tarot cards than I am at dogs. The third card that we pulled is the Four of Cups. And this makes a lot of sense for the cards that we pulled so far, because we were just speaking about self-love and self-compassion. So I think a lot of us want approval, and we don't realize that we want approval. It's kind of in the way, it's kind of like in our DNA, in the way we were raised. So I think that there is this core, oh, there I just used the word twice on 2 different cards. That's interesting. I always feel like when I'm doing tarot card readings that I'm channeling messages from spirit and that I'm actually not even reading the cards, that it just comes through. So I just realized I used the word core twice. I think there's this core value in being kind of patted on our shoulders. It's like passed down through our parents, like from kindergarten. Like you bring home like your first art project, or you bring home your first like real grade, and you're seeking like approval, and your parents are like, oh, great job, Jenna, you did so well in school today, and I hope you have another great day tomorrow. And it's kind of like embedded in us that we seek approval from other people, and it's not even a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing, because if it was a bad thing, I don't think our teachers and our parents would have been doing it with us like through elementary school and our formative years. But if you think about it, our formative years are like kind of that pre 6, 7-year-old status, right? So when you're 2, they're like, don't touch that, that's hot. Good job, you didn't touch it, great job. Or, do you remember like if you've ever raised kids of your own or helped with your nieces and nephews and so on, they're like, go throw this diaper away, and then they go and throw their own diaper away, and you're like, good job, you did a great job, you threw your diaper away, and they like seek this approval from you, right? So I think it's kind of like in our in the way we're raised, right? In like our story, like seeking approval, we want to know that we're doing a good job. So I think in life, when we become adults or young adults or full adults or adults, you know, like the full grown adults version of ourselves, we seek approval from other people. We don't realize that we're doing it. And a lot of us blame ourselves with our egos for seeking that approval. But I think it's really just something inherently, like in our DNA, that we are constantly striving to do better. And I feel like this card this evening, this Four of Cups, is like in essence like us striving to do better with our emotion, like doing a check on ourselves. Like, how are we doing emotionally? Like, am I okay? Are you okay? We're okay. We're going to get through this. Like, you pick up your big girl panties or you pick up your big boy boxers and you're like, I'm going to get through this, right? And that's what this card is. It's almost like you, the person receiving this reading, or me. Sometimes when I'm reading the cards, I feel like this has to do with me. I think we, you know, continue to seek approval in our lives. Like, we're hoping that someone's going to say we're doing a good job. So when we're going through like some emotions and we're processing these emotions, some of us wear our heart on our sleeve and we share those emotions with other people. And for most people, it's difficult to share those emotions. There's a lot of people who are introverts. So they won't necessarily tell you when they're going through a hard time or a difficult time. And this card is kind of like that. It's like me saying like, I'm okay. Or you saying like, I'm okay. Are we okay? We're going to get through this. Four of Cups is that we're seeking balance with this emotion. Whether it's a good emotion or a bad emotion, we're seeking balance between the highs and the lows of life. And it's like people want to help you, but you're not really seeking help at this time. But you also at the same time don't want to push away that vital connection to people who can really be there for you. Maybe in life you've been let down. And because you've been let down, you put up your guard and it may not be a front, but you put up this shield of armor, like everything's okay, I can handle it, I'm good, it's no problem, I've got this emotional control in check. But this makes me feel like maybe it would be okay to take a helping hand, and just to tell you that it might be safe for you actually to take some sort of guidance and assistance from other people if you're going through something emotionally. I think for the most part, when we are going through something really like deep within, right? We can take multiple places, but I'm just going to say like probably one or two. One, where you need to talk about it to kind of hear yourself speaking about it so you can process it as you're doing it. Or two, you've got that whole I'm good vibe. Like everything's great, look at me, I'm happy. And then at night, maybe it becomes more difficult, or in the morning, maybe it becomes more difficult. And each day, as you go on, you get a little stronger and you move a little further away from whatever pain you're going through. But I feel like Spirit is saying, like, it's okay if you don't have it. And it's okay to take guidance or to accept assistance during those difficult times. And you don't always have to pretend like you have everything together, like all of your SHIT together. It's okay to fall apart sometimes in front of people because it humbles you. It lets people know like really who you are. It'll let people see your strengths and your weaknesses. And if you feel, and I get it because of the line of work I'm in, some people don't like to feel vulnerable in front of other people because they feel in a protective mode. They need to have that like kind of armor and protective shield on them. So if you feel like you've overshared, I get that. I get that whole thing. But don't forget that there are people who really need to hear your story and be able to help you, because in processing what you're going through, sometimes it'll help them. And you don't realize it. You might think, oh, gee, I overshared. Okay. But somebody might take I'll just use somebody's name, the most recent name I see in the live feed. Okay, so Kimberly is the most recent name I see in the live feed. Say I overshared with Kimberly, and she leaves. And I'm like, dang, I overshared with Kimberly. On Kimberly's end, she might be like, wow, I never knew that about, so-and-so or Jenna. I never realized like how human she was. She always looks like she has all her SHIT together, but I never realized like how to the core, like how to the root of who she is shows or emanates. And then you never know how that could help Kimberly, right? So it has this like trifecta. So I think it's important that you take risks and not always worry about being so proper and speaking on everything so proficiently and trying to make it look like every day is maybe in that day you needed to fall apart in front of Kimberly because you needed that, and maybe in that day Kimberly needed that because maybe from that conversation she's going to take something and gain a learning experience from that. So that's what this card makes me feel like I need to say to you, is that the Four of Cups is about you trying to find stability in your life, but also not being afraid in kind of taking guidance and taking help from other people, because it's important that we share. And we have to remember that we are humans. And it's funny, I'm just thinking of this in this moment, but they call us the human race. And if you think about it, I mean, in other countries, it's not always the same as the way it is in New York. Oh my God, I just said New York and I meant to say the US. I think we live in this very like maybe I said New York on accident, but maybe I also said it on purpose. I sometimes feel like when I say things in error that maybe that was what was meant to say. But we live in this high pressure society, kind of a spoiled society here in the US, and everything is like now. You want it online? You can't go to the store? Order it. Oh, we're not getting our orders fulfilled because of COVID. Well, when am I going to get it? Let me check. Let me look it up on the internet. So it's like we always want it in the moment. It's like self-gratification, right? So I think that there is this high-pressured life that we live here in the U.S. that we have to have all our SHIT together, and we've got to look so stable for everybody, and we've got to make it look like we're on all the time. God forbid we let anybody see how human we are, or how we fall apart at night, or how we sometimes have, good evening, my cousin, and how sometimes we fall apart, and how human we really are. So don't be afraid to show that side of you to other people. And I really think that is why we pulled this card, because if you look at the cards collectively, we pulled the Star card, which is about kind of like filling yourself up and finding that emotional freedom and finding that mental clarity. And then we pulled the Ten of Swords, which is about sometimes feeling defeated and not really feeling like we've found that mental clarity. And then the next card we pulled is the Four of Cups, which is about trying to find emotional stability, not balance. And I choose my words carefully, not emotional balance, emotional stability. And there's a big difference. I think we're constantly trying to find balance in everything. But once you find that balance and you work through those highs and lows and you finally hold on to something, you're trying to be stable with it. So it's a little bit different than just finding the balance. It's finding stability and security and rooting yourself and staking yourself down through that emotional upheaval. So if you think about it, emotions and thoughts, right? That mental energy and... Oh, I just realized my daughter didn't bring up the living wheel cards. Tyra! I'm so sorry that I'm shouting. The living wheel! I just realized it, that she never brought me those cards. When you think about emotions and then mental obscurities or obstacles, a lot of it, like whenever you're going through something mentally, it starts to take an emotional toll on your emotional body. Or if you're going through something emotional, it starts to take a mental toll on your mental body. So it's really no surprise that these two cards came up kind of sistered together. Thank you so much. I just realized you didn't come up with them. Are you there? Okay. All right, so that's our 3-card tarot card reading. I'm going to add 3 cards from the astrology deck called the Living Wheel.
There's none left in stock.
There's none left in stock? Are you messing with me? There's none left in stock. Ay, 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 this kid. Wait, can you just come here for a moment? I don't care if you unfollow me. I would just like to tell you about this beautiful human being. Sit down.
Okay.
Who I gave birth to. Okay.
Actually, you didn't, but okay.
I didn't give birth to you?
I just kind of prospered from the earth.
So this little lady has been to
4
protests, peaceful protester, out there doing her thing, proud of who she is as a young woman. I'm proud to raise this young woman. She wants me to say young black
I don't
woman.
want you to say, but I am young black.
Well, I'm trying to be politically correct.
That's not political, it's humane.
Okay. So I just wanted to say, let's give her a shout out. So everybody put up your hands like this to show her your support. Look, she already did it before I even asked. Thank you, Holly Berry. Yes, I am the mom of 6 beautiful black children, and I am tired of people coming up to me saying, it's so crazy what's going on in the world today with all this COVID and protesting. And I'm like, I have to tell you up front, do not say something offensive because I will be offended very easily.
Wait, who is the one who said hi, Tyra?
Who said hi, Tyra? My friend Nancy.
Hello.
And Jackie.
Hi, Jackie.
So yes, I just wanted to introduce you to her because
Thank you, everybody.
I gave birth to this amazing human being.
Thank you, the Living Wheel.
Yes, look, she just brought me the Living Wheel. She said we were out of stock, but we're not out of stock.
Thank you.
Yes, so let's just wish her
I'm not
safety.
really doing
Are you
that.
going to New York City to protest
You're
tomorrow?
not supposed to tell people because if they after decide that they want to like accuse people of doing things, you're not supposed to show your face or tell anyone.
Okay, so we will not tell you where she will be tomorrow.
I'm going to the city.
My gosh, I remember hanging out with Sam in the upstairs apartment and she was just a baby. That's you.
That's Val.
Yeah. And you go, I can't find that emoji, but please wear your mask, sweetie. That's Tara.
Aw.
Okay. All right, go. Goodbye. I love you.
Thank you guys. Goodbye. I will wear my mask. Thank you. Love you. One love. Thank you. Bye. Thank you for all the shout outs.
Thank you. And I didn't lose any followers. Look at this. I love it. You guys are so supportive. I love it. I said to her the other day, I posted on my personal page, like the blackout, and I said, I really want to post it on the Breathe page. I'd rather stand for something. Aw. I'm going to tell her what you said. I'm going to screenshot that actually so that she can see that. Thank you, Barry. I appreciate that. I said to her, I'd rather stand for something than fall for nothing, so I don't care what people say. I don't care if they don't shop at my store anymore. I don't care if they unfollow me. I am posting it on the business page, and so I did. So here we are. I just wanted you to see that beautiful human being. She made this amazing poster, handmade. I can't even tell you, there had to be like over 100 names of people that have passed away. And I was just so proud. I came home and I'm like, that was yesterday. And she was taking it with her to the protest and I was so proud of her. Okay, can I just tell you how sexy these cards are? Do you see that with the gold foil? We're going to pull 3 cards on the Living Wheel, okay? Living Wheel is on here with us tonight, so let's just say how excited I am. Oh no, where's my handbook? Oh, okay, I got nervous. I was like, what if I need help? We need more decks. I just got some more. Yay! Okay, good. We're supposed to be opening, like by next Friday, fully open. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to just sell out, and I'll be calling you up and saying, let's fulfill another order. I still have some decks left in each store, but I think that's only because we are not open yet, and I'm still trying to do like curbside shopping. And P.S., just plugging my stores, we will be open tomorrow on Saturday and Sunday in both stores, 12 to 5, curbside shopping. Okay. First card we pulled is the 5th house. We're going to translate these. Next card we pulled, I want to say is Saturn, but I'm going to double check. And the next card we pulled is Waxing Crescent, I believe, but I'm going to double check. Thank you, Barry, my beautiful cousin. That's my beautiful cousin right there. Okay, so we pulled the fifth house, rock that one, that's pleasures. We're going to talk about this. The next one I believe we pulled, if my memory serves me correctly, was, no, I lied, it was not Saturn, I'm so embarrassed. It was Mercury, haha. And then the third card was the moon phase. Please tell me I got something right. Dang it, did I get nothing right? Okay, Patrick, I think I'm going to need your help. I got the lunar eclipse, I think. Okay, Patrick, I'm going to need some help. This is the fifth house, which says that it is pleasures. I know a little bit about that. Then the next card we pulled is, I'm so embarrassed that I got this one wrong, Mercury, transmission. And this card, I might need some help on, is the lunar eclipse, which is internal change. Fifth house pleasures, Mercury transmission. I love that the owner of the company is on with us. How special is this? Oh, it is the waning crescent. Yay! Did I say that? I think I said that. I think I said waning, waxing. Okay, releasing. So I'm going to add, so thank you, Patrick. With those keywords, I'm going to add that to this reading. So if this is pleasures, and the cards we pulled this evening was the Star, and the Ten of Swords, and the Four of Cups, I'm going to say that in addition to these cards, this card, the pleasures, would be that you find pleasure in helping other people. And sometimes we can easily be distracted by helping other people because it takes the attention off of our own life. And I think a lot of times when we have stuff going in our own lives, we want to help other people because we're like, that distraction kind of takes our mind off of this current chaos that we're dealing with. And then if this has to do with transmissions, I'm going to say that because it's coming up underneath the card like this, that those mental processes are for you, for those of you that have kind of logged on with us tonight and are sharing this space and this energy with us. If you think about the word transmissions, and even if you broke it down to something that you know, what word do you know where transmission comes from? A car. And without a transmission, it can't operate, right? This card we pulled this evening comes up underneath the Ten of Swords. So that is our thinking mind, right? It's how we process things. So we cannot live fully if we are not constantly processing things. So educating, interpreting, adding to all of these mental processes. So that transmission is kind of like, I know it's in astrology, it's a bit different than how I'm describing it, but I'm saying like without the thinking mind, we would have nothing. So as much as we say that we want to quiet our mind through like yoga and meditation and walking meditations and things like that, and you know, smoke cleansing and working with crystals and working with the cycles of the moon, that we kind of want to quiet our mind, we need that thinking mind, we need that wake mind to be able to kind of, you know, protect ourselves and work through things and just like be safe or know when we're in danger and so on. So I think it's kind of like how we're processing the things that make us feel good. So those two cards kind of line up with the tarot card reading this evening. And then this, he said, was, Patrick mentioned, the owner of the company said this was the waning crescent. So if I'm not mistaken, I always mess this up. One is illumination. So this would be, yeah, so then this would be up underneath 100% how we synthesize, share, get from point A to point B, and how we process. Cool. I'm so glad that you're sharing this with me. So then this comes up under the Four of Cups, and that's our emotions. So it's like illuminating, releasing. Waning is releasing, and then waxing is illuminating right before the new moon. Thank you so much, Patrick. I totally adore you for this. So how would that apply? So we're releasing. Oh, and then we're looking what is no longer serving us. One of the things that we need to release is the fact that we think we need to be in control of our emotions all the time, that we need to be on our best behavior. And that's what we were talking about earlier, is that we are afraid to be, we feel like we have to say things correct and we can't make mistakes. But, we are this being, this light, and we weren't born to be proper. We were born to be improper. I was thinking about that today. I always get like some of my most important thoughts in the shower. I kind of use the shower as like a grounding meditation, because that water is coming up from the earth and it's coming over you. And I was watching something the other day. I'm going to go back to this waning crescent in a moment, but it made me think of this. I was watching something the other day on this, President Barack Obama came on and he was talking about, he was speaking with some panelists about having a powerful voice and how some of the elders in being activists can respect and hear some of the wise words from our youth, and we don't realize how powerful the youth is. And I think it's so empowering and encouraging to allow those youths to say or be able to verbalize what they are kind of like projecting. And I was thinking, could you imagine someone telling Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or Rosa Parks or Barack Obama or Frederick Douglass, like, oh, you're just a young one and your voice doesn't matter. Like, how powerful is it that we were able to learn from, their voice? So I think listening to what people have to say and not always worrying about how you're going to say it and how to articulate it without offending somebody is so important. And I think that brings me to what I'm trying to say here with the Four of Cups and trying to be in this emotional balance. You don't always have to have your emotions in check. You don't always have to have everything tucked in. You're allowed to fall apart in front of people. It's all part of it. We all process things. So as you're falling apart in front of people, when you don't have it all together, people are learning from that and they're healing from that. They're watching you heal and they're healing from your experiences. And I feel like this, the waning crescent, about releasing, on the new moon, we start to affirm what we want in our life. So if we start to affirm, like, I want to be this or I want to be that, I think how those two cards correlate is releasing what kind of emotional burden you've been carrying on, thinking about how you need to have everything all put together. You don't need to have it put together. Fall apart. I welcome you to come to my place and fall apart in front of me, because after COVID-19 is over, I'm going to come over there and hug you. I might even kiss you. I might even squeeze you. Don't think that you have to have it all together and you have to articulate all your words so perfectly and be so organized and stable. And these cards really, they really do come together. If you think about, let's just kind of look at them this way. This was the tarot card and this was the Living Wheel astrology card. And I feel like they work with each other. Okay. Then we pulled the 10 of Cups and we pulled Mercury. Those work with each other. And then we pulled, 10 of Swords. Then we pulled the 4 of Cups and we pulled the waning crescent. Releasing and trying to be stable. Release the fact that you think you have to find stability all the time when it comes to, I love it. When it comes to emotions, you don't have to have it all together. You don't have to have it all together ever. Nobody wants that. That's like lining up cookies and taking the same cookie press and just making every cookie the same. What fun is that? Did you ever go look at something? This has nothing to do with the tarot card reading, but this might make sense. Have you ever gone to look for paint and you're in between like 3 grays or 3 versions of gray, but then you look at the name and you're like, oh, this one is called James River Gray by Benjamin Moore, and this one is called Cloudy Day by Sherwin Williams, and this one is called Gray Skies by Bear. And you're like, I don't really love gray skies. My dad's name is James. I'm going to go with James River Gray, just because my dad's name is James. Meanwhile, they're all different versions of gray, very similar. 5 minutes ago, you couldn't make up your mind, but because you see a name that's enticing, you go with that color based off of that name. That's kind of like us with our emotions. It's like, well, on my best behavior, my collar is pressed, right? I leave the house ironed. My handbag matches my dress. God forbid I let my emotions come out and fall apart in front of somebody today. No, I have to make it look like my collar is pressed and my handbag is matching. God forbid I let my emotions come out. And that's really, I so pick paint that way. Me too. So it's like you really think that you have to be on your best behavior all the time, and it's so not true. I invite you tomorrow on Saturday, June 6th, to just let your shit hang out. I invite you not to press your collar. I invite your bag not to be a fancy pocketbook. I invite it all. And you know what? We're all going to be okay. So that is your very long 35-minute tarot card reading and living wheel astrology reading. For my YouTube subscribers, I thank you for tolerating me this evening. Stay safe.